if I come to IITs, I get a good job and I don't have to worry about after that. That's all the reason why our kids are coming to IITs. The questions that parents ask are only two of these questions. One is, अगर ये ब्रांच लेने से स्कोप क्या है, तो कितना स्कोप है, क्या कितना जॉब्स है, क्या क्या हो सकता है. एंड द सेकंड क्वेश्चन मेनी ऑफ देम आस्क इज पैकेज क्या मिलता है. सो एक लेने से कितना पैकेज मिलेगा मेरा बच्चे को. व्हाट दे विल गेट आफ्टर द डिग्री, दे फॉरगेट कंप्लीटली अबाउट व्हाट दे कैन डू विद इन द प्रोग्राम फॉर विच दे आर एट IIT Delhi. So they come to campuses and start planning their career, that I will do this and I will get this job, after this I will produce 2 children, get the changes that are happening in the IIT system, particularly in the last 5 years or so. There are many things that are changing. One of the things, one joke comes to my mind, that a teacher, let's say a higher education teacher, you are all much better I am sure, and a medical doctor, both of them went into a coma for 30 years. And then our medical doctor came back to his conscious, and then he or she went to a medical hospital, and then she saw everything different. There are so many technologies now. There are all these blinking LEDs and all that, and just doesn't know where to start. There are robots doing surgeries and all of that. Whereas our professor came back, took a chalk and started his lecture. So there was absolutely no problem for our teacher. So that is what is currently the situation. So that we are not using technologies as much as we should, and that's one of the concerns that exist right now. The another thing which is also becoming very important for us in higher education is that the gender diversity is now becoming more important than ever. I think we used to think that only boys coming to IITs and getting education is all fine, but it's not okay anymore. There are lots of things that are required. If you just take the simple case of at IIT Delhi, there are a lot of people working on programming or developing autonomous vehicles. In fact, very soon we will launch a vehicle which will take people from the parking lot and bring them to our administrative building, without any driver. It will basically maneuver itself and will be able to do all of that. So when there are kids programming those sort of vehicles, whatever ethics we have all learned over a period of time need to be codified. Now for this vehicle, just imagine an autonomous vehicle which is going through a cliff or through some place, and it has to save now, and that vehicle has to decide between saving, between the left side there is let's say a woman, on the right side there is a man, or and if the vehicle has to take a decision whom to save, those ethics need to be codified now. Now you cannot say that I will save a man or I will save a woman. What we usually think, that gray area that exists in our minds cannot be gray area anymore. Now you need to put all of that as a code so that machine in that split second will take that decision. Or will it also say that, I will save both of them, but I will die? But even that needs to be codified. So therefore, now we are going through a phase where we need people from all disciplines, from all races, from all genders, and all of them, sitting and codifying some of the things that are gray areas in our mind. Therefore, it has become very important for us to be a little diverse, in the kind of students that we have. Because if you give it to one section of students who only think one way, things can go terribly wrong when machines start to take decisions. So this is one reason why we think we need a lot of gender diversity in IITs, not only gender diversity, but all kinds of diversities on our campuses. Another thing, which probably we are to blame to some extent, the IITs, but you also are to blame to some extent for that. We get lots of students in IITs now, place like IIT Delhi, where they're all very good at answering questions. Because after all, they have come through this JEE kind of an examination where any tough question you give them, they can answer it. I think it's all a matter of somebody who answers it in 10 seconds comes to IITs, someone who can answer it in 30 seconds goes to NITs. That's the only difference. Between IITs and NITs, the difference is only those 20 seconds. Otherwise, the students are very good in NITs and they are as good as the students we have in IITs. But then, they are very bad at asking questions. So the problem is, once they come to our IITs, they're all very good at answering, but don't ask any questions, take the teacher for granted and tend to think that, everything should be, whatever is there on the internet or whatever is there in the textbooks is all correct, and they don't have that open mind to question anything, and that creates a lot of problems. Because if everybody is just taking everything that exists for granted, the knowledge will never improve. Unless they ask the right kind of questions, there will be no research that will happen, and that is another concern that we are facing in our institutions. And the people answering questions, eventually Google will replace them. I think today or tomorrow, Google can answer all the questions, and but Google may not be able to set the JEE question paper, but Google will be able to answer all of the JEE kind of questions. And with those sort of onslaught of technologies, for our students to keep asking the right kind of questions is also going to be very important. Also, the previous speaker, all of this is very important. In fact, if we have our say in the next few months or within a year, we should be able to offer people like Bhimsen Joshi a professor position at IIT Delhi. I think that is the kind of an all-round development we want our kids to have. And for example, there was a time when a civil engineer, if the civil engineer can build a dam and can design a dam, it was considered good enough. Now for a civil engineer, you need that civil engineer not only be able to design a dam, but should also be able to understand the environmental impact of the dam, understand how it will replace people and what will these people do. So many of these sort of technologies also need to be taken into account. So therefore, it's not about just science and technology. The sustainable kind of living, the sustainable kind of technologies is what we need to train our engineers for. And from that point of view, again, the technology cannot be so narrowly focused on just designing a dam or designing a building kind of a thing. It also has to look at multiple aspects of the impact of these technologies on multiple things, and that is where we are also building major social sciences departments in IITs. At IIT Delhi, we have a very strong humanities and social sciences department. 15% of our curriculum for all students now is consisting of the humanities courses, because we realize that we need to teach them more ethics, more social sciences, and expose them to all aspects of life, not just the very narrow definition of technology. So that is also one thing that is changing. Another thing we also have a big issue is, in this country, since we're all becoming a developing kind of a nation now, we have been a developing country for too long, the education is always seen as a avenue for a better life. Nothing beyond that. I think you want to come to IITs because if I come to IITs, I get a good job and I don't have to worry about after that. That's all the reason why our kids are coming to IITs. So when they come to IITs with that kind of a closed mind, it becomes very difficult to teach them anything else. On the first day when we have these counseling sessions, in our institutions, the questions that parents ask are only two of these questions. One is, अगर ये branch लेने से scope क्या है? तो कितना स्कोप है, कितना जॉब्स है, क्या हो सकता है मेरा किड को, दैट इज वन क्वेश्चन. एंड द सेकंड क्वेश्चन मेनी ऑफ देम आस्क इज पैकेज क्या मिलता है. सो एक लेने से कितना पैकेज मिलेगा मेरा बच्चे को. सो दीज आर द काइंड्स ऑफ क्वेश्चंस दैट पेरेंट्स आर आस्किंग, which is again our biggest challenge right now in our institutions. And because they come with that closed mind, they are just looking for a pay package, they are looking at what they will get after the degree, they forget completely about what they can do within the program for which they are at IIT Delhi. So they come to campuses and start planning their career, that I will do this and I will get this job, after this I will produce 2 children, that's all. So I think that is what is happening now with many of our children. So that's again the place where making their minds a little bit open. And I tell my students that, the minds are like parachutes. They function only when they are open. So now, with the kind of talent that we have in our institutions, they could have really done wonders. And the issue is, how do we motivate them to take some risks? Because the students who come to IITs, the risk mitigation has already taken place. Now they will not die of hunger. After getting a degree from a place like IIT Delhi, they will all get a job eventually. So now, how do we make them take some risks and get into some areas where they can contribute and make a change to that particular sector? I think this is again a place, how do we actually ensure that our kids do that, is also one issue that we are facing in our institution. So having said that, with these kind of comments, I will just run you through what I have put together. And so and there are also a lot of myths about IITs. Unfortunately, the press, just goes after things which people already believe in. So they are not going to tell you something which you will start questioning. So I think, that perpetuates these myths. I just put a couple of slides on that just to tell you, these are undergraduate institutions. When you think of IIT, you think of BTech programs, but we are much more than the BTech program today. At IIT Delhi, for example, more than 60% of students are postgraduate students. IITs are no longer undergraduate institutions, and we are now 60% students are actually doing masters and PhD. For example, at IIT Delhi, we have more than 3,000 PhD students. I come from IIT Bombay and now at IIT Delhi. So between IIT Bombay and Delhi, I can tell you, these numbers are exact, and these numbers are definitely true. And also, there is a perception that these are mostly the teaching institutions and not much research happens in IITs, and faculty spend most of their time in teaching, which is again a huge myth that is being perpetuated by everybody. IIT Delhi in the research ranking, if you just look at the research impact aspect of it, IIT Delhi was ranked 39th in the world in 2018. That is, you do the research, you write papers, how many people cite your papers, and that is how you measure the research impact. IIT Delhi was 39, and 3/4 of faculty time goes in research, not for teaching. The average teaching load in IIT for a faculty member is 3 hours of lectures per week, that's all. The rest of the time they are supposed to do research and generate the knowledge. And then again another myth, IIT students go abroad. I keep hearing this over and over again from the media. It's actually not true. These are exact numbers. If I am saying it, you have to believe me. In 2018, only 4% of IIT Delhi students went abroad. In 2017, that number was just 5%. And those days when you come to IITs to go abroad, those days are completely over now. Our students don't even want to go abroad anymore because there are so many opportunities that exist in this country, and they don't think that going abroad is the only way they can build a career. There was a time when we used to say that only the bodies reach the IIT, their souls would have already reached the US. That was a kind of an era we had, but that is no longer true. Now the current generation of kids are all spending time in India, building their careers. If Delhi NCR has so many startups, IIT Delhi has played a major role in that. So I think that is what most of them are doing. We did a survey recently at IIT Delhi. Every second student at IIT Delhi wants to become an entrepreneur. They don't want to even take up a job. So that is a kind of a generation that is coming now, that is going through our campuses. I think, for you to see the effects of all these children staying back in the country and building the economy, building the nation will become very apparent, in a few years down the line. And then there are hardly any girl students in IITs. Partially true. I mean, I don't deny that. But today, if you look at the exact numbers, there are 30% of students at IIT Delhi, of all students at IIT Delhi are girls. 1 in 3 students at IIT Delhi is a girl today. And then in our undergraduate programs, today it is 19%. 19% of students in our undergraduate programs, the BTech programs who come to the JEE exam are actually girls now. So that is 1 in 5 in the undergraduate programs, 1 in 3 at the institute level. At the PhD, it is 1 in 1, actually 40% of our students are girls. So therefore, I think this gender thing is also getting better over a period of time, which is also a good thing. And again, no research funding kind of a thing. That's again not true. IIT Delhi every year does research of about 450 crores. That's money we generate through competitive research grants, not the MHRD funds that we get to run the institute. What faculty write as research projects and get money, we do close to 450 crores of research every year. That's a research that goes towards establishing startups, establishing facilities and all of that. And again, the IITs, everybody talks about our fee hike and all of that, and that IITs now charge enough money kind of a thing. IIT education is completely free even today. Only 5% of IIT Delhi expenses come from the tuition fee. The 95% we are still supported by Government of India. If we start charging the fee, which is the cost of education, we know that many people in this country cannot even afford IIT education. So therefore, the government still subsidizes us up to 95% of thing. IITs are well funded; they don't need any money. That is a thing I tell our alumni particularly. And IIT Delhi, it's not really true because we're all now running our institutions on a huge debt. IIT Delhi, for example, has a 580 crore loan from Canara Bank. so which we need to repay over a period of time. So that's the current situation of our institutions. That is where alumni are coming forward. We will be launching a major initiative by alumni. We are talking of $1 billion endowment now by our alumni. I think things are now taking shape, and the curriculum part is also, every semester, every quarter, we introduce new courses. That's also not true. And this is again something which, when kids don't get into our BTech programs, they think it's the end of the world. That's actually not true. IITs offer multiple entry levels. For example, we also have the master's level, the MTech level, at the PhD level, where students can seek admission. All of that again happens through very competitive kind of exams. So not getting admission in IITs through JEE is not the end of life. And you have multiple ways to enter IIT, and all of them are as transformative as doing a BTech in these kind of institutions. Having said that, I will not again get into some of these things in the interest of time. I know that we're already quite late, but the three aspects of any education thing, if you look at, education is one thing, where you need to train our students, and IITs probably have the best undergraduate education in the world. Nobody else can beat with IITs as far as the BTech programs are concerned. That's the reason why in Silicon Valley kind of places, every startup will have an IIT graduate. In fact, the general joke somebody told me in Silicon Valley recently was, for anyone to fund a startup, they want to see 4 IIT graduates and 1 foreigner. When they say foreigner, a white guy. And why? Because the white guy needs to do the marketing part of it, because the actual work will be done by these 4 IIT grads, while so that guy is required to. So that is the way. So every startup in Silicon Valley, you will see IITians behind, and that was the case earlier, but now the same thing will happen in India. And that's one change that is definitely taking place. The research is another part. The innovation is the third part, where we need to do a lot more things. But if you look at overall, what do you expect out of IITs? Now, what does country expect out of IITs? I think we have to increase our higher education gross enrollment ratio. India, it stands at about 24%, 25% now. 1 in 4 students, is actually going to the higher education in India, while in many developed countries, it's almost like 50%. So we need to, create more programs and more good institutions, and we have to scale up these IITs. And we also want to see many of these institutions in the top 100 ranking. I skipped that ranking slide. One of the reasons why we are not ranked well enough is simply because of the internationalization. For somebody sitting in US or UK ranking our institutions, the thing they ask is, if you are world class, if you are so great, why is it that the whole world is not coming and studying with you? And why is it that the whole, the great faculty from all over the world not coming and teaching your students? These are all ranking parameters are designed with these 2 questions in mind. The world should come and study with you. The faculty from all over the world should come and teach at our institutions. I tell them, we can admit anybody from the world as long as they clear our JEE exam. Now, the clearing that JEE examination is, is not going to be easy for somebody sitting in any other country. Therefore, we don't have enough foreign students, because getting into these institutions is so difficult. And we don't want to create an alternate way of admissions just because they have a different skin color or they speak a different accent and all of that. We said that anybody who clears our exams, we welcome them. But then, nobody is able to clear our exam, and not many are able to clear our exam. But the reasons again are not that, these exams are difficult, or of course they are difficult and all that, but there is a demand in this country for quality education. We don't have enough good institutions which are offering quality education. As a result, everyone wants to come to IITs. So these exams have become so difficult now because of that 1 million children are appearing for our exams. We can take together about 10,000 students, 10,000 out of million children. Obviously, the exams are designed to reject students, not to accept them. And once that becomes a kind of, it's a supply and demand situation. There is no fault of anybody in that. And so long as we rely on only IITs for quality education, things are not going to change. So we need to create more higher educational institutions which are as good as IITs when it comes to quality undergraduate education. When it happens, the demand also will be met, and that sort of thing. I think these are some things that need to happen, and we are already doing very well in terms of research. By 2027, India will be at the 3rd position in terms of knowledge generation. So when I say knowledge generation, the research aspect of it, India is currently at the 5th position in the world in terms of knowledge generation. In some areas like nanotechnology, we are already at the 3rd position, and in the next 3 to 5 years, India will overtake US at least in the area of nanotechnology in terms of knowledge generation. So there is a lot of research happening out of our institutions, and India will be at the 3rd position by 2027. That is what everybody is talking about. One thing which is also missing is connecting our higher educational institutions to societal problems. They have all become silos. They are all doing research and doing great things, but what is the impact of these institutions on the society? That is one question that we are all beginning to ask. If you will still find faculty members in our institutions who are modeling the air quality in London, but not modeling the air quality in Delhi. Why? Because if I want to model the air quality in London, I can find all of that data online. You can go to some sites and download the data and start to model a lot of these climatic changes, the air quality and all of that. If I want to do the same thing for Delhi, the problem starts with where is the data? Now who will generate the data? Who will provide me the data? Therefore, everybody is choosing easier options, and then in the process, the research doesn't become relevant to the society. So this is one thing which is again changing, and we are also looking at an inclusive education system. We are looking at increased investments in our higher education, developing India as an educational hub. I think since I have run out of time, this you can last story. So for example, if you look at the alumni story from IIT Delhi alone, all Indians anywhere from the world have created about 24 unicorns. The $1 billion valued tech startups, there are about 24 of them. 14 have come out of IIT Delhi alumni alone. 14 out of 24 unicorns created by Indians have just come out of one single institution, IIT Delhi. If Delhi NCR has become the hub for startups and has overtaken Bangalore, now in fact, Delhi NCR has more unicorns than Bangalore today, the reason is because of the presence of IIT Delhi in Delhi. I think these are the things which are changing now, and one of the things we are all very consciously looking at is how do we motivate, how do we provide opportunities for our students to become entrepreneurs. So converting them into job seekers to job providers is the biggest thing that we are going through, is the biggest challenge that we are going through in our institutions, and that is where all the curriculum change is taking place. That is where we are launching a lot of immersion programs. How does a student become an entrepreneur? The student needs to know the problem. If I want to start a company, I need to know what the problem I am going to solve. And how will the student actually know the problem if they have come out of your schools, gone to Kota, spent 2 years, and come to IIT, we again teach them maths, physics, chemistry, day in and day out. They are not going to find what is the problem that a farmer is facing, what is the problem an industry is facing, or what is the problem that government is facing. I think because they are all leading a very sheltered kind of life. I tell all my students, just go out and put yourselves in some uncomfortable situations, go and live with a farmer. At IIT Delhi, we created a program, we call it village internship. We said any student who wants to spend 2 months with a farmer in a remote area, in a remote town, institute will provide all the necessary requirements. We'll take care of the funding and accommodation and everything. You just live with that farmer for 2 months, understand how farming is done in this country. And once they understand that, they can come back to IIT and develop a solution to that problem and then start a company and make it big. So these are what I call immersion programs. We are sending our students to hospitals. We are sending them to villages. We are sending them to government offices. We are sending them to places wherever there are problems so that they understand these problems and come back and find a solution. And when the institute will provide them all the necessary wherewithal for them to start a company, we started a deferred placement scheme. We are saying that if an IIT student wants to start a company, they can try that out for 2 years after graduation. And after 2 years, if the company succeeds, they don't have to come back to us. But if the company doesn't succeed, they can come back and through our placement processes can find a job. So that is the security that IIT provides to our students now, where for 2 years they can try out whatever they want to do and not necessarily look for a placement and all of that. So these are the changes that are taking place. A lot of good things are happening, and I think, but the impact of it for all of you to see will be another probably 3 years or 5 years down the line. And already, as I said, so many unicorns are coming out of IITs. IIT Delhi today has about 100 startups. On the campus, you will find about 100 startups. By end of next year, I can show you 200 startups on our campus. We are building a complete science and technology park. The park will be entirely full of startups, and that is what will happen by end of next year. So that is a direction that the education is moving now, and it's no longer a student coming out of our institutions finding a job, or a student coming out of our institutions and going abroad and then building a career there. I think those days are completely over as far as IIT Delhi is concerned, and that is true of many leading IITs in the country too. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Professor Rao.